It is so awesome to be with you ladies. It's a great day here in New York. Even better to be surrounded by such inspiring entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Thanks
for being here.
Thank you.
Super fun. So let's start at the beginning. Like the entrepreneurial journey is a journey like no other. And I heard Charlotte say that before she founded SoCo Glam, she actually was just going to Korea, bringing back suitcases full of skincare products, right? And all of her American friends would want all these products, and she would just pile up suitcases and then deliver them to folks on the West Coast. So how did you go from that to, I'm going to start a business? And then I'd love to hear, what was that aha moment for all of you?
Yeah, it really wasn't meant to be a business at all. I think that was the beauty of it. There was no business plan. We had no investors. We just, honestly, it was a creative project because I lived in Korea for 5 years and I knew I was going to leave. And I felt torn and very sad about losing that connection to Korea because I'm Korean American, my parents are from there. And I knew that after I left, I wouldn't have a real reason to go back. So I decided to start something that would bring my greatest passion that I learned while living in Korea to the US. Wow. And it was supposed to be kind of like an Etsy shop, a side weekend project. And my husband and I, Dave, started the business. But again, it was just a side project, a creative outlet. And then it just escalated from there. We got written up in the New York Times. Wow. And I think the big aha moment, the moment we knew it could be an actual business was when we saw so many people of different backgrounds ordering from us, and just like we sold out at the time that we got covered in the media. Wow. And again, selling out at the time was like in our closet, right? There's a few shelves that are dedicated. But that was a moment where could this be something more? Wow. And then we moved to New York. This was 13 years ago.
Wow.
What a great story.
Congrats.
What other aha, Ty, what was your aha moment?
I mean, I was an accidental entrepreneur. I started my business, my first one 19 years ago. I've gone on to found and start other businesses since then. After burning out of working in corporate, I decided I thought I was going to take what I thought was going to be a sabbatical from media. I was on a very, very fast ascent in magazine publishing, and I thought I would take a break and then come back. And I started consulting and loved the consulting work that I was doing. And the consulting work then evolved into me hosting and producing TV. And I was like, okay, this is something. And so similar to you, it's like, you do something, people respond to it, you realize you have something special, and now it's like, okay, maybe I need to figure out how to make this make sense for real. And then I love creating, and I think that was the thing for me, the aha moment now, several businesses later and iterations of businesses, recognizing what your superpower is. Right. And how your superpower can empower other people and what people, can extract from that and what they will pay for. Because that's the other thing. I think, being entrepreneurial is one thing. And I have to, even when I speak to other entrepreneurial people, it's like understanding the difference in being a contractor, self-employed, and a business owner. Right. And so I think then developing and designing something to actually be a firm business.
And building it.
And building it.
To scale it, right? You have to figure it all out.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have a lot of aha moments. Right. The first one, from an entrepreneurial point, came 19 years ago. I find that I'm still having them.
Right.
Always.
Yeah.
We're always learning.
Never aha moments. Yeah.
Hopefully we get better at fixing them.
Yeah. This is true, right?
My aha moment would probably be, I would say I was around 18 and my grandparents were entrepreneurs. They had a real estate development and management business, and I worked a couple of summers with them, and I would see what they were doing, and I think I saw that they were having a lot of fun. They had a lot of flexibility, and they were building something. And I watched them together and I was like, I think I want to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea how.
The hard work behind it.
I was like, what kind of business would I start? So it was fortuitous. I was in my late 20s and someone came and asked me to build and sell for their graphic design company. It was an investor. He had invested in 2 women. So I ended up starting that and I worked for them for 20 months. And I was like, I can do this. We went from 0 to about 45 people in 20 months.
Wow.
So I signed a contract with my largest client who was financial. And I said, will you sign a 1-year contract with me because I really want to leave and start my own business. So that's what I did. And then I'm a serial entrepreneur. I had those 2 businesses, which I sold. And now I work with my husband for the past 18 years in beauty.
Wow. Love.
So
Awesome.
Love.
It's fun. Passion. Still coming
I'm
through.
crazy.
Right. You have to have crazy passion.
You do. You have to have crazy passion.
Yeah,
We're all crazy.
Yeah.
No one's
to want to
sane.
do this.
I think,
Little insane.
yeah, just a little bit. And then my aha moment was my son was 6. I was making dinner. I was very busy in business development. And he looked up and said, "Mom, can I see you more?"
Oh, wow.
That's a tough one.
And I've always wanted to have my own business. I kept talking about it. And then my husband said, "Oh my God, either you do something about it or just stop talking about it." And I read the book, The Alchemist, on vacation. And it read to me and said, either I'm going to do this or shut up and don't do it. But I was so eager to have my own business. I read business books. I had the accounting background. And I started later than all of you. I started when I was 39. And it was the hardest thing ever because I didn't have a single client. I just knew. I came back. I said, this is it. I'm doing it. And I had a small savings. And I said, this is going to last me 6 months. And I did it, you know, and you look back at it and you say, oh my gosh. It's like, am I crazy? And I had a lot of older ladies say to me, oh, that's so sweet. Like, how long are you going to be doing that?
That's so sweet.
Yeah. And I was
You're doing good, sweetie.
But it's just, you know, and I'm like, no, I'm going to do this till I retire. Like, this is what I'm going to do, and have a place where, you know, the mom doesn't have to worry about, I got to get Johnny to the doctor and having guilt feelings of doing that. And I wanted to have a place. So our motto is family first. Our motto is do the right thing, you know, and my team is primarily women. We have 5 amazing men too. But, you know, for the most part, they realize that they have support 100% about being a mom and being a parent or a caretaker and all, and not having that fear of, oh my God, I got to get back to work. And I didn't want to ever have that. And that's what we have now 18 years later. So
Well done.
Thank you. And what would your son say about that? Like, does he remember that?
Oh, he does. Yes, I used to take him. It's so funny. I would do the red tag sale. Like, we couldn't afford anything. And so I would do like red tag. And I remember like eventually after like 5 years, I'm like, he's like, well, Mom, it's not red tag. I'm like, we can afford the non-red tag stuff finally. But it took a little while. And now he's actually in financial services himself and likes to save money and likes helping people save money. So it's really has, and he wants to have his own shop. You know, he's like, you do your thing, I do my thing. And so I'm really proud of him for that. But he learned through seeing us go through all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah. So we said you guys we're all a little crazy. I'm not an entrepreneur like you, but we are all a little crazy. But what would you say, like, what's your purpose? What do you think about that? And I love this story that Ty shared. She said that I'm a joy sharer.
Yeah.
So that's one of your core purposes. So tell us about that. Like, what does that mean? How does it apply to your work?
Well, I mean, my purpose actually is to help other people see themselves more clearly. I feel like I am the person that empowers people and helps them to feel good about where they are and where they want to go. And then, you know, as a personality, I'm joyous. Like, I love life. I love experiences. And I think that direction has really kind of fueled what I do and how I show up, you know, from even starting Morning Mindset with Ty. That was, you know, me going online and sharing inspirational things every morning and creating morning routine. And then it grew. And so again, I reacted and responded to what people wanted as I'm designing products and what have you now and expanding that business. I want people to feel great about life. You know, there are so many things, and especially during these times where so many of us are struggling. And I feel like God has given me a gift to help make it a little bit lighter. And sometimes that comes in the form of a word, sometimes that comes in a bottle, right? And so I'm fortunate that I figured out how to package it in different ways and to afford it to people and to build business around it. So, yeah.
Great thing about entrepreneurship.
This is, I mean, that's ultimately it. You're able to realize what your gift is and then how can you make it work for other people.
And mine is very similar. I'm empowering women through beauty and salon and spa. I say it's so important. People don't realize, like, they're always thinking about this in the surface. And I'm like, if you don't feel good about yourself inside, there's nothing that we can do in this environment to make you just look like $1 million. It doesn't work. I want somebody who gets up out of that chair and says, I look the best I've ever looked in my life, or they come out of the spa and they've just had a great facial and they're just feeling it. You can tell how much they're feeling. So that's what I do. It's about the feeling. It's not about, I said, I'm not really in hair, makeup, nails. I'm in beauty, hospitality.
Yeah, I love
the
that.
hospitality of it. That's important to me, is really giving them a home away from home.
The power of touch, though, too.
Oh, power of touch.
I mean, the power of touch, especially when so many of us feel so disconnected, just to be like, to have, you know, to be lovingly touched and celebrated.
Yes, massage. People love a great massage.
You ask what we're doing later, we can go do that. Count me in.
They're all coming to my place.
We're on our way.
Everyone should massages and drinks after this.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. What do you think, Charlotte?
I think my purpose is stemming from the fact that, you know, I got to live and breathe my Korean culture, and just being able to have that purpose instilled in every step of my entrepreneurial journey is what I believe allowed me to make the right decisions. For example, bringing Korean beauty to the US and introducing it to a whole new audience for the first time. I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, shortcuts. There's a lot of things that I could try to sell because I know it's going to be viral because it has something funny that it's great on social media. But I am more interested in the long term, talking about more of the quality. I feel like almost like the gatekeeper of Korean beauty, and I don't want to disappoint people who try Korean beauty for the first time and have a bad experience just to make a quick buck, right? Like there's a lot of things on social media that's viral that's not good for your skin. So I got my esthetician license, and I just wanted to make sure I came from a really good place. You know, as it's not about selling a cleanser or a moisturizer. It's really about telling people to help take care of their skin and get the confidence from having better skin. And so all of that, it came from that place of like, well, if I'm the one introducing Korean beauty, I have like a responsibility on my shoulders. Like I want to make sure it's something that I'm proud of and that I'm introducing something that people can rely on and feel good about, instead of like, oh, this is a gimmick, this is a scam. Like it's so easy to go there. And I think if, you know, we actually didn't have any investors for a really long time in that journey because we didn't need it. And then secondly, like it's so great that we could use this route and this journey, because then I'm not kind of beholden to investors to be like, well, why aren't you meeting your sales goals? Why aren't you? Then maybe I would be kind of tempted to try to sell things that just are viral for the sake of virality. So I think having that purpose really grounded me. And still to this day, you know, Dave and I, we are making the decisions for the business. And I still, like, even as Korean beauty is having a second wave, like it's all over social again. Like Gen Z is like rediscovering it and they're just reimagining it in their own way. I still feel like, now I'm like the mother of Korean beauty.
Like I'm the godmother.
You're like protecting the brand.
Back then it was like, you know.
But you were really on the forefront when I think about 13 years ago. So that's incredible.
And now all the teen girls are, they know every makeup brand.
They're like snail bees. And again, I'm like, all right, let's go there. I'm like, now I got to do on TikTok instead of Instagram. Okay, here we go.
Instagram's old news.
Yeah, so it's evolving. The whole process is evolving, but the base is always the foundational aspect of like, I want to make sure, you know, I represent Korea in the best way possible. You know, I'm not here to shortchange it. I'm not here to like misrepresent it, you know, to make a quick buck. I'm here to make sure it's known for its quality. And I think now Korean beauty is synonymous to quality. Like when people hear Korean beauty, they're saying, oh, it must be good. And I think I feel proud to be a part of that, you know, that journey. And my background is in PR as well. So like, I just think that it's important, the decisions that you make and like the, you know, what you share, it makes an impact. So I'm glad to have that rooted in my journey.
It's so interesting because you have like beauty and products and stuff like that. And I'm people operations, you know, so my whole company is around people operations. And if, you know, if people aren't doing what they love to do, they're miserable and their kids see it, their spouse sees it and all too. So having and sitting down with people and connecting them to the right people and the right jobs in their lives and all, and then just having those conversations is so rewarding, you know, and it's being that connector to help somebody, either the right job or the right time, right place, whatever, you know, to help them with their jobs and helping women entrepreneurs get those connections because we don't always take the time. We're so hard on ourselves that if I can make one person happy today, like I feel like I did my job. That's my superpower. And I feel so proud about that. But it's just different. People operations is very draining.
It's
Very draining, but it's so worth it because if they go home and they're happy in their life, you know, they feel great going to beauty. They go great buying products. They feel great having joy. You know, those things all tie into that. And that's my
I truly
superpower.
think you have the most difficult. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the hardest role, I think. People
Managing people. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so hard.
It's
I feel
fun.
like I need to talk to you.
It's fun.
I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you.
I sympathize. I do that
Yeah.
as well on the salon and spa side, not so much on the hair care side, but I see it every single day. But I always think I want to make people really happy in their career. I want them to want to come to work.
Yep.
I love to champion anyone's career, but especially women, of course.
Of course.
And bring them along on my journey. And I think one of the things I learned very young when I was a new entrepreneur, I didn't really know how to manage. When you say managing is difficult, and what type of advice would you like? I thought that management was a bit one size fits all. And it's really not. For me, I'm very individualized now in how I manage and the way that I can handle any issue. It all depends on what the person is like, who they are. It's not about the position, the role, anything like that.
No.
It's about the relationship
So maybe that's really more leadership than management. How do you define the two?
That's a great question. Leadership and management. Well, leadership, I think, is inherent. What you do, what your team sees, how they watch you grow, develop, how they see you build your business, the commitment they see to your business is really important.
They watch everything.
They watch everything. And now I have about 150 employees. So they pay attention to everything. They see me straighten a trash can. They see me go and say hello to a client. They see me pick something up off the floor. And they know I've done that for so many years and I'll always do it. I'm never going to stop doing it. It's just what you do. And so I think it's lead by example, the leadership piece. And the management, it's much more individualized. It has to be that one-on-one relating to them and understanding what they need at that moment to keep them happy, to bring them along, to give them confidence and to empower them to do their job no matter what it is, whether they think it's a big job or a small job. And also, I think to provide growth for other people.
Absolutely.
Whether it's individually, I say, have your personal brands, have who you are, but understand that you're part of something much larger than yourself. And you want to have both. You don't want to give something up. And I think when you speak to your wanting to be an entrepreneur, that's where it was, right? We were the hamster on the wheel.
Yes. I didn't know what I was doing.
But I think that's the other thing about entrepreneurship. It's like you're constantly learning and developing, especially as systems and experiences and businesses evolve, right? And as, you know, like you said, this is the second wave of Korean beauty. You know, there are so many iterations, and so you always have to evolve. But what I loved about like what everyone shared, and I don't know if this is a woman thing, but the through line in like the establishment of our businesses, there was integrity and there was thoughtfulness around like what the impact could be.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think when you think about entrepreneurship, especially, you know, and I mentor so many, I went to an all girls high school, I went to an all women's college, I worked in women's magazines. I've been like a girl's girl my entire life, which is why it probably took me so long to just find the relationship. Thank you, God. Different conversation. But like, you know, this idea of impact, and I think with women entrepreneurs especially, we think about that impact. But it's not about just having a business to have a business.
No.
You wanted the business so that you could be home with your son. You know, you designed because you wanted to make people feel a certain way. So when I meet younger people that are just like, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be my own boss. I'm like, every client of mine is my boss. So I actually have a ton of bosses. You know, when I was focusing on the beauty brand and that business, you know, every customer is your boss. You're responding to everyone. So every team member.
Team member.
I mean, so it's I think the integrity and like I think the thoughtfulness of wanting to create impact that drives intentional entrepreneurship. And I think that is also what makes a business that can actually scale and grow.
Because I'm hearing all throughout also the length of like the decades that we've been involved in creating our own businesses. We have to be a little bit insane. Crazy. So we are.
But no one said I was sane.
No. But you got to be okay with risk and fear. You got to be okay to get back down and get back up. And you know what? it's not always your family saying, hey, great job. You got to get your tribe of people around you.
Yes.
Because it gets very lonely sometimes.
It's your tribe.
Your tribe.
You need your tribe.
Yeah, talk about getting beaten down. I know you mentioned in a quote saying, advice you would give to a young entrepreneur, like get kicked down 6 times, but get back up 7, and failure is just part of it. So, how have you, when things are tough or when they've been tough throughout, what tools have you used to be really resilient?
So I would say my tools, some of my toughest times were when I was alone with my business and before I was working with my husband because I didn't have anybody else to rely on. So I can relate when the 3 of you were talking, and especially in the early years. And it's intuition and it's trust. You have to trust yourself. You have to know that you can do it. You can figure it out. Whether I was teaching myself QuickBooks or learning how to oversee a 24/7 print shop. It's like I knew that I had to learn. And if I didn't learn all of those skills, I wouldn't be able to move forward. So for me, I think that's the falling down. And then I've had some funny failures. Like I wanted to do a men's hair business. So after I tried it for the 3rd time and failed, I said, I'm good. But I kept trying in different iterations, different locations, because I thought, well, men want luxury hair. And you know what the reality was? Men want to be somewhere where there's lots of great women around. That's what they like. So unless they're a true barber guy, our clientele, they enjoy the energy. They enjoy talking to the woman next to them about what they do for a living or about their kids or maybe about their job. And it's a different interaction. So they're, and occasionally we do set people up too. So there you go.
Well, that's great.
So when you had the red tag moments, when you were like, I got to do red tag stuff. How did you get through that and just keep grinding?
You know what? There were days that were really hard. And you know what? I think it was 2009. I remember it was Christmas. It was a week before Christmas. And I had 5 clients. And then 4 of those clients called and said, I'm so sorry, we ran out of money. Oof. And so this person, your consultant's only going to be with us for about 2 weeks. And lovely. So I had 1 left. And that was the one I was working on. And it was so bad out there because money was so tight. And you make do. I did tip into my 401k. I never told Mike, my husband, until later. I told him, and then I put it back and all too, but it was still mine. But it was just interesting because there are the things you had to do. And for my motto has always been failure is not an option. And so it was going to be, be the breadwinner. Like that's what I do, and that's what I'm going to be doing. And I feel like I'm very proud mom to do that, but I also know I'm the same kind of person to my team. And so when I tell them we're going to make it, and we made it through COVID. I didn't have a single layoff during COVID, and we survived and all too. We made it fun, we made it exciting, and they didn't know that at the end of the day, I'd be on the floor sometimes crying, like, am I going to make this? You know what I mean? I worked so hard to get here. Will I have this tomorrow? Because nobody knew what tomorrow was.
Really scary.
That was really hard.
But I think the other thing as an entrepreneur, you almost, not that you can ever plan for it. I think, when people say plan for the worst, you do your best. But as an entrepreneur, you almost always know that there are going to be difficult times.
Always.
And so you never rest on the laurel of the best time. You never rest on the laurel of the best time. You're like, okay, this is great. And I think that that's sometimes healthy and good, but it's also sometimes very challenging because you're almost never celebrating the great times because you're almost always moving to the next thing, which has been part of my challenge, I think, as I've evolved over the years. People are like, I can't believe you did that. I was like, oh, that was, who remembers? Like
that was last year.
Who knows? Because you're constantly thinking to the next, but you almost always expect that there's something can happen. And I think the true testament of an entrepreneur is the fortitude and the resilience that you develop in that season and having to rebuild and being, creative enough to know how to rebuild or how to take steps back and,
or pivot.
Which
pivot is so key. So many people never pivot in their career. And I say, if you can't pivot, you're not going to grow. You have to understand what that is.
Always.
Agreed.
So you talked a little bit about mentorship, and obviously you want to pour these insights into young entrepreneurs that are thinking about that path? I know this is super passionate for you. You even started a nonprofit called Shadow Her. So tell us a little bit about that. I'm sure all of you pour into young women and other young entrepreneurs.
Well, Shadow Her was started 2 years ago. I had a really dear friend of mine who's a mentor of mine, and he said, your operations are phenomenal because you really have women shadow you. And I said, oh my God, Eureka. I said, I've been trying to do something that would be a give back. And so that night went to GoDaddy.com. I saw shadowher.org was available.
Such a great name.
Right? And
it's available?
I know. I was like, I bought it that night. Next morning we had breakfast. I'm like, you're not gonna believe what I did last night. And he goes, what? I said, I bought shadowher.org and give me 12 months, it's gonna be up and running. And he's like, I'm sure it will be. And so on that plane, wrote a business plan out, and basically 9 months later, we have our first cohort of 10 women entrepreneurs in the Philadelphia market that basically have revenues of 100 to about 500K. And the whole idea behind it is 6 months of courses basically to teach them about the operations, the back end. So like HR and your sales, your marketing. And I have subject matter experts that come in and teach them this on their own time. So we give them a mentor of another successful woman entrepreneur. It's all about the female entrepreneur. And I've created this great community now of individuals that just want to help each other out. And so now this is the first time we had way more applications than I ever expected. So it was really hard to pull it down. My executive director's like, can we have 14 this year? And so we're doing 14 and they start next week for the next cohort. And it's so cool to see how great some of these ladies are doing because they have those basic skills, but it's about giving back. It's about, okay, that's 10 years of my experience boiled down in 6 months for you. And if someone had told me that, I've been so awesome. So that's what Shadow Her is all about.
Love that.
Bravo.
Thank you.
It sounds like you all are thinking about the future generations. I mean, how are you pouring into others, I'm sure?
I think for me, that's when everybody asks me what I'd like to do in retirement. I say, well, I don't think I'm ever going to retire.
Most entrepreneurs say that too.
But what I would like to do is to be able to transition to find different women's businesses to not only invest in, but help develop and use my core skill sets, which are operations, marketing, and brand development, to be able to jump in, maybe build out a board and figure out what that is. And I think also it's one of those, when you are an entrepreneur in an ad hoc way, I always have female interns. Generally, and it's great because they're shadowing me, they're following, they're seeing what it is, they see how exciting it is, they get to do a lot. And it's neat. It's also neat to have the perspective of a sophomore in college. I mean, the ideas that she's bringing to my business, it's so valuable. So it's, I think, in a grassroots way, but I would like to do it much more seriously in the next decade.
Love it. Anybody else like sharing ideas that you?
I feel like in my line of work in being in beauty and being part of that influencer economy and creator economy, I've just had a lot of people who have created great followings for themselves and they want to create their own products. And so I try to give back by sharing all of my knowledge of like, how do you start from A to Z creating products? Because with Soko Glam, I also had my own experience creating my own skincare line through that process. And now that line is available at Sephora. And so just seeing that process happen in full, in 6 years, I know I have a lot of ways that I can help them get from A to Z without spending any additional money that they didn't have to do, you know, all the pitfalls I experienced, just like helping them shave that off their trajectory and just giving them the real talk about how hard it could be, or like, don't be disappointed in the beginning when you first launch your brand. Cause I think even though you have a huge following, there's a lot of brands out there and you know, you need to build credibility and trust. And so just helping them navigate that, has been really fulfilling for me. And then also just having that network of other beauty brand founders. Like I'm part of this group that came together during COVID, and that was such an eye-opening like aha moment in a different way, where it's like, wow, we are all facing similar things and we all get to come together in this like WhatsApp chat, and we do these Zoom calls where we kind of talk about our challenges and struggles and like resources. And so that they organized a group of mentors to help women of color, entrepreneurs that are trying to start beauty businesses. So I've, leaned in there as well. And so I think women entrepreneurs are really about helping each other. I think there's like a common thread here. It seems like everyone is willing to give back.
It's very collaborative.
Yeah. I don't know if other men entrepreneurs do this as much, and maybe there are. I think there's great groups like YPO and everything that my husband's a part of, and that in its own way has been like really rewarding, fulfilling for him too, and helpful. But I think women have a special thing.
I think it's innate for us.
Yeah,
I think
helping,
the idea
giving.
and so whether or not it's formalized or not, it's interesting. I'm very active with my college, Spelman College. I go back and I speak on campus at least once or twice a year. I'm still very active with my high school. Believe it or not, the teachers that taught me at my high school are still there. God bless them. Shout out to St. Vincent Academy, because they're just incredible humans. So I make it a point to go and share stories, but I think, again, with how even Morning Mindset developed, it was through this connection of experience. And I think when we say the word mentor or mentoring, it has such a formal kind of connotation that a lot of people think like, oh, I have to be a big brother or a big sister. And those programs are important. And I also was a big sister at one point many years ago. But I think community is the new form of mentorship. I think the idea of even having friend tours and dismantling this idea of hierarchies where it has to be someone who has had all of this experience that's pouring into you. It's relational. And even this is a form of mentoring. I think, this experience and sharing this roundtable discussion is an opportunity for people to teach and learn, right?
And I feel like it's less competitive. It's like, for example, that group I was talking about, it's all women entrepreneurs literally launching beauty brands are kind of in the same space. Like they couldn't be considered competitors, but it's very collaborative. And I think people would be shocked to hear the conversations that go on. Like during COVID, those hard times, and like, what are you guys doing to save costs on photo shoots? Or like, how are you doing photo shoots? Because no one's coming in to do it. And how are you going to launch without like the typical resources? And so you would be surprised. I think consumers and people on the outside would be surprised to hear like, oh, I thought those were competing brands, but we're actually helping each other. It's very special. It actually gave me chills just like thinking about that experience.
What's the name of that organization?
It doesn't have like, it's called Beauty United.
Oh yeah, I know Beauty United.
Very well. Okay, with Moj.
Moj.
Yeah.
And I'm a member of Female Founder Collective as well with Allie and Rebecca. But I think a lot of that just happens organically for us, and it's like the thing that we seek to do, right?
We're always collaborative. That's what we do.
But this is interesting. So many of the entrepreneurs we work with, men and women, kind of falls back to like, it's lonely at the top. There's some isolation. Maybe you can't talk about the immense amount of success you've had with maybe your original social network, but it doesn't seem like that is resonating with all of you. Like you all have found that peer network.
Yeah, I've been fortunate.
It's still out there.
Okay.
You're like, it still exists.
It still exists.
The isolation or your network?
The idea that both men.
Okay.
And I still think I had a lot of people who were great mentors to me that were. I do think it's still out there, but I do think there are people who've been very helping us to get where we need to go. And there's still friction sometimes, and you have to sometimes get in that little club and put your hand in there and like, I'm this person and I'm not just another blonde. You know what I mean? But it is hard. You still have to, I feel like we're still fighting it, and I feel, thank God for our ancestors who really fought so hard for us to get here. We still have a little while to go. I mean, we have a lot of female entrepreneurs, but I still think we're still fighting to get to where we need to go and have a voice.
That's 1,000%. I mean, the gaps that exist are definitely real. But I think, when I think about women at least, and like I said, and I realize I'm a uber girls girl, it's not about having a competitive edge as much as it is about having an advancement edge, right? Like we're constantly, you're still thinking for yourself, how can I advance this brand? And, and using sometimes those inspirational kind of blueprints of other people who have advanced as inspiration, right? And saying like, if they operated this way, how can I not necessarily copy and paste, but what lessons are there for me to take that in order to grow myself?
Yeah, we've seen clients really crave sort of that peer network with exceptionally successful entrepreneurs. We've hosted events where it's not about our firm, it's about them creating relationships and creating a space to share the challenges, the opportunities. So that's really special. And it's great that you've already found those on your own and looking to support younger entrepreneurs and also looking to find your own group of folks who support you.
And there's more coming. I mean, there's more females that are graduating high school. There's more females graduating college and all. And it's hard. I have a son, right? And I always try to say to them, always respect the female out there and all too, especially in financial services. Right. But you have to keep in mind, like, how can we just respect what everybody's doing and how we're all doing, and we're getting there. You know, but I still think it's a hard climb because we are thinking about what's for dinner tonight.
Right.
We are thinking about, you know, I got to take care of my dad and make sure he has food tonight. You know, we are thinking about there's a birthday party on Saturday. What's the present and what am I getting? You know, all those things are there, and it's gotten better. But I still think, as an entrepreneur and as a mom, it's hard. You know, and we're just really hard on ourselves. And I mean, massage sounds great, and I'm lucky if I do it
when I can
once
get
every
time,
6 months of that. You know, but I think we just have to be nicer to ourselves. So the community that we're building is getting stronger and stronger out there. But I still think we have a little way to go still because it's hard.
Also, men don't understand it. So I think all of the things that we handle as mothers and wives and entrepreneurs, it's a big plate. And I think people often ask me, oh, don't you think you have it all? And I said, well, here's the thing. I may have it all, but I never have it all at one time.
Yeah, I love that
That's
quote.
it, right? If I'm doing great at work, that means something is suffering with my family time-wise. If I'm putting in all those hours at the office, if I'm having a great time and I go on vacation with my kids, I come back and I say, oh, I'm punished. I'm punished to take 5 days off. So it's like I don't believe in that true life balance. I think that's something we probably all strive for and will continue to strive for, is like,
I've given up on it. I'm just like, balance. I mean, I need harmony, balance. I don't know. But I do want to add on to that, you know, not just with all of the life responsibilities and the social responsibilities that we carry usually as women, but the reality is we are underfunded. We're a lot less funded. I mean, you know, and so, but I think to that end, and I'm not justifying it because we have a lot of work to do there, but I wonder, because we know that that's the truth, and that's something we're up against, then do we rely on the community to actually have the feel good to offset where we know that there is a gap, right, in the funding? And reaching those milestones takes a lot more grit, a lot more effort, a lot more resilience, a lot more show up. And so then we're like commiserating in that way, and also celebrating and supporting one another through some of those things too.
But that's where our best ideas come from.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's like, I want to change that. And you start seeing us basically, I'm like, this person's doing this, person's doing that. And that's where our best ideas come from.
This is true.
As a need, it wasn't resolved, we're going to fix it.
We're going to fix it.
Right.
We will fix it.
We're all fixers.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur,
Well, that's a new word for entrepreneurs. So I wasn't surprised that in none of your explanations about purpose, money came into it. Like, that's not the purpose. All of you are super passionate about what you do, but obviously money has to come into play at some point. Like you said, you have to find something that people want to buy.
I did say that.
I mean, so how does money play into your mind at all, even as an entrepreneur, scaling your business?
It's necessary to scale. It's essential. And I think for me, like going from a CPG brand and now starting a brand that is community, for me, I realized that I had to start with the people, because the people will actually drive what we can build, like the commercial success of it. And, you know, I did raise money for Brown Girl Jane for the beauty business that I started. My media company has been completely self-funded for the last 19 years. Wow. And now that I'm thinking about like what that growth strategy looks like, it does require resource. Right. And I liken money as a necessary force. It's not what drives me to impact. So I draw a direct correlation between financial security for myself and also for the business as what will drive me to create more impact in the world.
How do you think about money in your business?
Agree that if you want to scale a business, you need to raise. And I think with Soko Glam, that allowed me, I was able to kind of chart 13 years with my husband without raising much. But with that, I met you, and we have our opportunity at Sephora, and entering 400 doors is turning out to be not so much, you know, a walk in the park. You know, you got to compete against all these brands, and that shelf space is so valuable. You have to really be out there with the marketing and just all of the aspects. You have to be everywhere all at once with a brand nowadays. And so having the additional funds to scale quickly with an opportunity like that is so important. So I'm trying to learn from the SocoGlam experience and see that at face value, but then also like think smartly about, okay, this is a different type of opportunity. This is a different type of brand. Don't treat it the same exact way. And then, really relying on a lot of experts that have done this many, many times again and again. And even without money in the equation, like just getting really talented people, that's very
costs some money.
Yes,
and even I have no ego about being I'm a co-CEO along with my husband for both of the brands, but like with Then I Met You, it's different where we've never scaled a brand at Sephora or like in the beauty space before in that way. So maybe this time we do differently and we hire someone that will take over one of our roles. And I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I think just knowing from my experience with CPG, I think knowing when the tipping point is, because also as entrepreneurs and founders, our skill sets are very specific to developing a brand. And then when you go to a scale level, like especially indoors and in retail, like what does that need and what type of leadership does that take? And also what skills, are going to be needed to offset that. So I celebrate you for that.
It's totally uncharted territory. And I'm okay with saying, hey, I'm not really suited for that.
To step back.
That's okay for me. I have no ego about that. And I think that's the advice that we can get from seasoned experts. I've seen this play out again and again. I lean on that expertise. I think that's really important to have open ears and open minds and not be stubborn about, charting it only yourself. Like I think you need help, and I think one thing I've learned as a founder is to always ask for help because it seems very glamorous on the outside that you got it all together and you're perfect. And, on social media, it can really seem
I'm like, we got nothing together.
Please, someone do this for me.
I can tell you, being 3 decades in, hire for your weaknesses.
Yes,
and I say with my team around me, not even just my immediate team, but that's why I have a great CPA. I have a great controller, who is in my office. I have attorneys, whether it's contracts or whether it's employment, right? You need to know that someone that's their specialty. That's what they do best.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think the key player also is when you're thinking, so for me also about when you talk about money, it's also when you're younger, you're looking at your future. You're saying, what am I going to have in the next decade? Whether it's how much do I save? How much do I invest? What am I doing for my kids' college when they're 10 and 12? And I'm like, oh my God, but I want to put this money into my business. So I think there's a lot of hard decisions to be made. And we all go through it. There's just tough decisions, and something has to give.
I was going to say something's got to give.
It's
And how do you
priorities.
sort of quantify that? I mean, how do you think about those levers about, the trade-offs of putting back into the business versus,
I always just do it based upon timelines and like what is essential now and then work backwards from what the more immediate goal is, right? Because and I like to say this just in life, you can have a lot of priorities, but everything is not the same level priority at the same time, right? So like everything is not, and that's been something I've had to apply, like even in decision making in entrepreneurship, like when opportunities come, to bear, like immediately, okay, is this something that is going to be strategic? And so I'm often thinking about not just the now, but what is that strategic kind of like end goal.
We work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are just so focused on the business. Of course, you have to be, and help them really, crystallize what their future could look like. What certain success can mean later, what those levers are. Really to bring clarity because it's complex. How much you put into the business, how much you think about for yourself, your personal balance sheet, your business balance sheet.
But Bernstein's done a great job. Like my relationship with my person has been great. And I feel as if I get so much out of just that thinking, that some things I haven't thought before.
Right.
And having that constant connection with her is just wonderful. Not only is she like, an advisor, but she's a friend. And I feel as if like, I didn't think about that. I'm the protector. And so, my dad was blue collar. So, we worked for everything we had. And there was I didn't do loans. I didn't do anything like that. And I learned when I did the 401k, always have reserves. Just always have reserves. And thank God I had reserves because on COVID, we tapped into those reserves, because money wasn't coming in, that's for sure. And so you have to sit back, like, what do you need? What don't you need? How much do you need versus you don't need? And yes, the bigger you become, the more expensive payroll becomes. You know, and then that payroll comes every 2 weeks. And make sure, right?
It comes around fast.
Comes around fast. And like, make sure that money's coming in.
It will certainly show up. It's definitely coming.
It never stops. Payroll is just that endless.
It's endless. And then every year, January 1st, you start at zero. You know, revenue. Here we go again.
Yes.
And it's just, you have to make sure that you're prepared for that and all too, because you might have great months, you might have bad months. You don't know. You cannot predict. And my job is to take care of my employees. Like, I promise you a paycheck every 2 weeks. I'll make sure that happens. But I think it's having that guidance of people around you to say, are we safe? Are we good? And listening to them and making that happen. But I feel like I'm always the protector, you know what I mean, to take care of that. It's not about like having a yacht. It's about making sure that we're having fun, people are happy, and that we're basically paying their payroll and their benefits so they can sleep at night.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, my situation is identical. I feel the exact same way as you do, that it's so important. And even for me, separately from the Bernstein, from the PWM side, I actually, after working with Bernstein, I moved my 401k over for my employees because I felt I want to be making the most money with their money. And if I'm invested for me, I'm invested for them. And so that's been a great change. Also, it's very hands-on. There's always somebody. We have like a great representative. He comes to the office to answer 401k. He comes to the office to answer 401k questions. He's available. There's hands-on advice, and that's very different. I mean, my last 401k, will not say who it was, but they did virtually nothing except send statements. And I would be like, well, what are you investing in? What's going on? Well, I don't know. Let me have so-and-so call you.
All right.
So that was a very different experience. So that's, I think, where I learned about how important it is for life savings, and also to encourage the younger generation that there's a reason why they need a 401k. They're like, I don't need a 401k. I'm 19.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I said, oh, believe me, if you start saving now, wait till you see what you have when you're 30 even. You know, they don't get that.
So kind of a lightning round of, we started at the beginning, and I'm sure as serial entrepreneurs, everybody says, what's next? So that could vary from continuing to scale to, you know, anything, how you define success today to success in the future. What's next for you, Martha?
What's next? Well, obviously we're going to elevateshadowher.org. That's been having some great legs to it and really doing it quite well and really having a bigger population. I want to be the place to go for female entrepreneurship in the Philadelphia marketplace. That's one. Number two, my company. I'm going to grow it further now too, but you know, we're around people operations and HR operations. And so to hire the right people, it's not just anybody. I'm very particular. So we have a side company we're doing right now, putting in place of building the consultants that we want to do. So we're going to have a group basically building it to have people so we can do more of that across the country. So it's always what's next, right? And so we're moving in process of that and developing all that right now. So some good things to come over the next 12 to 18 months.
All right, Ty, what's next?
Oh my gosh. Well, with Morning Mindset, the focus is really to support people, especially marginalized people, on their wellness journey and to provide wellness resources and access for them. So our community is growing. We are starting a content platform, and that will launch toward the end of this year. The long-term vision is actually to build mindset residential communities. So I want people with like-minded vision who care about nature and living a full, you know, total well-being lifestyle to have places to live. And we have to solve for what is happening right now in the world where more and more people are feeling lonely and solving that problem. So there's a lot on the horizon. Our events and experiences are expanding, and we have more partnerships with more brands. So
that's exciting.
That's great.
Spreading joy. All right, Sulan, what's next for you?
So mine is a bit interesting because I'm looking at the next 3 to 5 years as exit strategy. So I really would like to find a majority investor, probably a large beauty company who really wants a tremendous flagship in Manhattan, the way they do with stores, you know, fashion brands. So I'd like to find a brand like that who would take over. I'm happy to stay on during that time or during the transition or even longer. But so I'm still growing it because I want the biggest numbers possible.
That's right.
You're thinking exit. And to me, that's very interesting because one of my early conversations with Bernstein was like, well, where are you headed? How old are you? What are you thinking? And they also can prepare you and talk about where you are financially, where you're going to be help you with an attorney, with your estate planning, with the multiples you can sell your business at. So I actually have an upcoming meeting in the next couple of weeks.
I love it. Yeah, we do.
So I'm excited.
Yeah,
So
There's a lot happening. So
Yeah. Sort of understanding what that could look like. And like I said, quantifying it, understanding the levers you need to pull with your business and then what that looks like later. So exciting stuff.
exciting.
Yeah, I love it. Charlotte, what's next?
I think, as I mentioned, that I Met You's launched in Sephora as of
Woohoo!
When's the launch?
so October we launched online and we're in 400 doors in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
that's a lot.
So we just need to stay in.
You will.
And we need to, I would love that I Met You to be a household skincare brand. I just want, we're in around 6 different countries right now. And US is, of course, the biggest market, the biggest opportunity. So we just really need to kill it. So our team is hyper-focused on that. But then on the Soko Glam side, just with this K-beauty wave coming and everyone really clamoring, every department store, every retailer is interested in Korean beauty and we're at the forefront. So just stabilizing our position as the number 1 K-beauty retailer and just continuing to capture that demand is really important to us. So, and then as a mother, having a 4-year-old and 1-year-old, just making sure I don't miss out on that early.
You didn't say that before.
I have a 4-year-old and 1-year-old, and I don't want to miss out on those moments. And so I also agree that we cannot have we cannot have it all. And
At
so
once.
at once. Yeah. So I'm really, I know these years are precious. Again, I hear from a lot of, even my advisor and all my friends, these are such precious moments. And so I don't want that to slip behind and look back and be like, oh, well, which one did I prioritize? And so trying to balance those 3 is going to be really important to me in the next year.
Exciting. Well, this has been fabulous. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your amazing insights. So thank you very much. And we'll all be cheering for each other on the next steps that you all have. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.